Hello, hello, hello. Tea time Tuesday. I've got my nice cup of Twinings English breakfast with me this morning. Love a lovely moderate strength cup of Twinings English breakfast. Such a yummy tea to have up nice and early in the morning, especially when it's raining outside like it is today. If you follow me on Instagram, and if you don't, be sure to go check me out. I'll leave the handle below. You may have remembered that I chatted about the idea of doing some shorter form Q&A style questionnaire content with you all here on the channel, and you all loved it. I got quite a flurry of questions coming through my DMs when I popped that one up in my stories. I've started compiling all your questions into a list, and so that I hope to get to all of them. I can't promise that I will be able to answer every single one of the questions that come through, but I will do my best. And so Tea Time Tuesday is born. My goal is to answer your questions in a short form video that will be 5 minutes or less. Wish me luck with this one. I think it's going to be tricky, but we'll see how we go. And this is today's first episode of Tea Time Tuesday. Oh, have you got a question? Pop it in the comments down below. Don't forget, it doesn't have to come through Instagram. I can add them to my Tea Time Tuesday list of questions, and I hope to get to most of them. I can't promise I'll answer every single question that comes through, but be sure to pop yours down below in the comments field, and while you're there, don't forget to subscribe. So today's question has come in through Instagram from Danny, and Danny asks, do I think that homeschooling has becoming more acceptable here in Australia? So I need to give you a little bit of background on this one. I pulled my son out of kindy prep foundation, depending on where you are is what you call it, that first year before grade 1, basically, in halfway through 2007. This was before the time of Facebook groups. I think Facebook had launched, but it wasn't really used. No one had really heard of much about Facebook. It was before I even had a Facebook profile, and before all the homeschoolers in the world had all converged onto Facebook and created the millions of groups that we see out there today. So it was a very different world then. And to be honest, I actually can't even remember how I came across my first connection in the homeschooling community. I know that I had spent months Googling like crazy, reading everything I absolutely could on home education and finding as much information about it as I could. So I'm fairly certain that those Google searches would have put me on to a Yahoo group email list. Any of you old enough to remember Yahoo email lists? That is where all the homeschoolers were, way back in 2007. I also do remember having a level of fear back at that time around what we were doing and not wanting to tell people that were close to us what we were doing, because I really feared being ridiculed for that. It wasn't something that you really heard of at all. In fact, home education hadn't even entered my mind for the entire time I'd been a parent. And when we did pull him out, I certainly did not tell the school what we were going to do. Things were a bit different back then, and it wasn't so imperative that the school needed to know where the child was going. Plus, prep isn't compulsory, so we just decided to take him out and see what would happen for the rest of the year. But I do distinctly remember feeling kind of odd, bit like a weirdo, because at that point in time I didn't really know anyone who was doing this homeschooling thing, and finding local homeschoolers was not an easy task. And when you did stumble across homeschoolers that were relatively nearby, you befriended them instantly based on nothing else other than the fact that they homeschooled, because we all so badly needed that connection. We certainly got a few raised eyebrows from family when we did tell them what we were doing, but now, today, most of them have become our biggest supporters. We've also never really been personally attacked by anyone outside of our circle. Strangers when they ask what the children are doing and those types of things. I know that I hear that it does happen. We've been really, really lucky, and that has not happened to us. I do ensure that I go about my business with an air of confidence, I guess you could say, about me. And I do think that that helps when questions from strangers arise. I think it really helps to make a difference in how strangers perceive things. If you are truly confident in your choices, they don't have an in to be able to attack you about things that make them feel somewhat uncomfortable. So in recent times, you can't get past the fact that you'll see homeschooling discussed online in more mainstream community style groups. And I have to say, I'm genuinely pleasantly surprised as to the positive reactions and the positive comments that I see coming from the community about homeschooling. And even from folks who don't homeschool, don't really have much of an idea about homeschooling, they're also making positive comments and positive statements. So that's a really, really nice thing to see today in 2021. And for those guys who are out there doing that, speaking positively of one of the other education pathways that our children can take, good on you, you rock. Of course, there's always going to be a portion of folks, both in the highly educated sector and not, that have ridiculous, unfounded ideas about what homeschooling is and what we're trying to do with our children. I don't think we're ever going to get away from that, to be honest. I think there will always be that group of people who will attack homeschooling because they simply do not understand. And I have to be honest, it doesn't help the cause when we see families who choose to put themselves in the spotlight and in the media that are completely pushing those boundaries, really sometimes crossing the line with what could potentially be acceptable in their homeschooling with their children. Unfortunately, when those families do this, I think they take the course backwards, not propel it forward. And I know that's not their intent. I know their intent is to show the world what a wonderful lifestyle their children are having. But unfortunately, when they're really pushing those boundaries, I think it actually hurts the movement rather than helps it. In saying all that, homeschooling in 2021 is absolutely way more acceptable than what it was back in 2007. More and more parents are simply craving an alternative educational pathway for their children. More parents want more, or they want more of something different than what your average school can offer them. They're wanting better standards for their children. They're wanting a more holistic style of education. And homeschooling certainly provides that. I'm super excited to see what the future holds for home education. Wonder what it'll be like in another 14 years' time to come. If you have a question, please leave it down in the comment box below. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe. And I'm off to finish my tea. Bye for now.